This is such an amazing, great honor to be here at the TiE 25th anniversary. And way to go, TiE. This is awesome. I mean, 6,000 people, 170,000 watching on the various screens. This is so exciting. I remember getting it was back then, I think actually he had to write it down on paper, but an invitation to come visit a few of Conrail Reckie's friends back in 1994. And I got the idea that there'd be maybe 10 or 15 people there, and they wanted to hear about venture capital, and I was trying to sort of figure out whether to go or not. And then I thought, oh yeah, okay, I'll give that a shot. Maybe some interesting company will come of it or whatever. And then I get there, and I'm really thinking we're going to be sitting around on couches. And I get there, and there's an enormous stage, and there are 750 people. And all of a sudden, I realized that there is a whole untapped power of entrepreneurship that's come out of the Indus world. And it just woke me up. I got off the stage, and I got about 50 business plans in that one session. And I was expecting maybe to hear from one entrepreneur. And that was the beginning of TiE. That was their first big event. I guess it was 1994. And then it's sort of taken me through a whole variety of different experiences. And I sort of feel like TiE had something to do with all of this. We ended up backing an Indian, Sabir Bhatia, who then, of course, created the great Hotmail, which spread to the entire world. And now there are 3 billion of us that all have free access to web-based email because of Sabir and his partner, Jack Smith. And it was that moment. Actually, I came up with that little message at the bottom of the screen. It was actually supposed to, so if you get a lot of spam, I apologize. But I came up with this idea that if I send you an email and you could send one to your friends and they could send it to their friends, eventually we'd reach everybody on the planet. And it was supposed to say, P.S. I love you, get your free email at Hotmail, but it only ended up saying, get your free email at Hotmail. And I believe we would have had a much more peaceful and loving world if we had kept the P.S. I love you. But in any case, to their credit, Sabir and Jack put that message on everybody's email everywhere, and it spread to 11 million users in 18 months. Sabir sent one email to his friend in India, and within 3 weeks, we had 100,000 registered Hotmail users in India. And I did some math, and I actually think there weren't 100,000 computers in India at that time. So things have really changed. What that did for me was it opened up a new way of thinking. All of a sudden, all of the world can now communicate with each other. And so geographic borders are going to fall, and we're going to be able to move throughout the world, back and forth. And then I started to think about, well, then what do governments do? Governments now have to go from the buy side to the sell side. They have to go encourage people to come to their country. And it changed the whole nature of how I thought about the world. And I started to think about how governments are going to have to compete with each other, and that creates a whole new competitive dynamic. And how our world, how much better and more efficient our world's going to be because we're going to be the customers of all the governments. And And then I always bring it back to my own business, the venture business. And I think, what's happened over these 25 years? We have really, all of us, all these entrepreneurs, have really transformed our world. Wherever we were getting bad service at a high cost, new technologies came in and changed the whole nature of that business. The long distance carriers were charging us extraordinary rates for very bad service, and then along came Skype. By the way, there's a fun story about Skype. I'll digress for a bit. I had to be here in Palo Alto at a conference that Tony Perkins put on. This at the exact same time I had to be at a Skype board meeting in Estonia. Somehow we had a conflict, and I called Tony and I said, I'm sorry, I've got to be in Estonia. Can we do this maybe by video conference? And at that time, the conference was like this. It was very difficult to understand what the other person was saying in a video conference. And he said, well, can we do it by video conference, and can you get that guy, Nicholas Zenstrom, to be on the video conference with you? And I said, well, yeah, sure, but I don't know if it's gonna work. And he said, oh, well, we'll give it a shot, we'll have a phone as a backup. So I went to Nicholas and I said, do you mind being on this, the two of us, I'll interview you for this conference back in Palo Alto, but can you get a video conference machine into Estonia? I mean, we need video conference. And Nicholas kind of looks at me and goes, no problem. And so I got there and we sat down, we got ready for our video conference, and Nicholas looks over my shoulder and he says, okay, throw the switch. And I thought, what? He said, oh, don't worry about it. And we had the video conference, and Tony, at the end of the conference, said, wow, that worked beautifully. We could see the pores on your skin, your voices were very clear, everything was just great. We could hear noise in the background, everything was just so clear. And Nicholas is chuckling to himself. And I said, well, what? And he said, you were just on the first Skype video call ever. And at that time, there were about 100,000 audio Skype. I mean, there were about 3 million audio Skype users at that time, and about 100,000 at the same time. And I turned to Nicholas and I said, oh my gosh, we've got a winner. That was fantastic. How did you do it? And he said, settle down, Tim. We cut off 100,000 simultaneous phone calls to get the bandwidth. So you entrepreneurs will do whatever it takes to make great things happen and to change the world as we know it and to make all of our lives better. And it's really wonderful watching new technologies transform old industries. And we're all focused on that. We're all doing our best to make that kind of thing happen. And so now we're at a point where the internet came along, and after that first meeting with the Indus, it was called the Indus entrepreneurs, the internet has transformed the communications industry, the information industry, gaming, you name it. It's transformed so many industries. So now I actually think that we've got other industries that have not yet been transformed. Lots of these industries have, but even the taxi industry has been transformed. But now I actually believe that it's the industries that have been highly regulated, who are still giving us bad service at a high cost, that are the ones that we have a shot at now. And those include real estate and insurance and manufacturing and there's so many others that all need this some sort of transformation. And I think I also look at, it's always good to look inside too. I actually think all finance has been providing bad service at a high cost, including venture capital, for quite a long time. And there are new technologies that are going to flip all of that. They start with Bitcoin and the blockchain and smart contracts and crowdfunding and networked accounting. Not only are we going to transform the venture capital business, which is happening as we speak, but we're going to transform banking, investment banking, accounting, legal. All these things are going to be completely changed over the next 5 or 10 years. And it's happening faster and faster and faster. I noticed recently that last month there was more money raised on ICOs than from venture capital firms. There are some really interesting things happening out there. And I actually kind of look at what happened with the internet to all those industries, and music, entertainment, all those industries. That same kind of thing is going to be happening around Bitcoin, the blockchain, and all these ICOs. I think we're going to see real transformation, and it's going to be awesome. So thank you for that, entrepreneurs. Way to go. The other thing that's happened is that there's a new mindset out there. And I think of Vivek Ranadive, because I said, Vivek, what's the secret to your success? He's an enormous success. He now owns the Sacramento Kings. And he said, well, I started with sort of a crummy product, but then I just kept asking the customer what they wanted, and I kept improving it. So I was just focused on continually improving the product. And that's what built TiEcon. And I thought, well, that's kind of what we do here in the Silicon Valley and the global Silicon Valley. What we do is we improve the situation. We improve the customer experience. We look for all these interesting technologies and we apply them to these new markets. The marketplace is one of the new technologies. That's fascinating. It started with Uber and Airbnb, but now there's a marketplace for your lawyer and for your accountant and for your PR firm and for your gardener and for your pool guy. There are marketplaces for so many different professions out there, and it's happened because we now know where everybody is, and we know who's the closest gardener to me who can fulfill the need. And that can really transform our world in yet another new way. So keep your eyes open for new technologies that could potentially transform industries. And once you see them transform one industry, start thinking about all the other industries that they can transform. And if it's an industry you know well, then jump on that new technology. So I went through and I realized that governments had to be kind of reinvented, and I thought that that was going to take some extraordinary chutzpah and heroism to transform governments so that they, instead of using a bunch of bureaucrats, they use blockchain. Or instead of using a bunch of politicians, they use liquid democracy. Look that up, it's pretty interesting. There are a lot of these new ways of governing, but people are going to be scared to do it. They're going to be scared to change government. Governments are big and scary and bold, and they have that military thing, and they have police and all that. But you have to start looking at them as how do I improve this situation? Because after all, it's of all the monopolies and oligopolies in the world, the worst service at the highest cost comes from government. And India, I mean, boy, they've put up all sorts of weird barriers to becoming legal there. And now in the US, it's starting to look the same. So I thought, well, the world needs more heroes, more people like you who are willing to stick their neck out, try things, go for some extraordinary outcome, even if it may not work. Well, I started this Draper University of Heroes, and I bought an old beat-up, boarded-up hotel, and I bought the building next door, and I thought, okay, I'll create an ecosystem for heroes here. And it was one of those, if you build it, they will come things, and I was just sort of thinking, how's this gonna go? And then all of a sudden, we had all these students applying, and I thought, oh, okay, I guess we can do this. And then we took the next step, you know, and put a curriculum together. We took the next step and said, okay, well, what does a hero really need? And a hero needs sort of strange training. A hero needs to get rid of all their high school hang-ups. They need to get out there and do something extraordinary that they know is right, even if the world around them doesn't think so. And so we thought, oh, this is different. This is a different kind of school. So we created a very different kind of school. And it has, it's all team-based. So people have to work on teams of 5, and they have to we've had 800 students come through, and they've come from 62 different countries, and they've started 300 companies. So it really is starting to work. And then my son, Adam, created an accelerator called Boost to sort of tap into that, although most of the people that joined Boost are from out there. And he led the pack he was the first accelerator for Bitcoin, and then the first accelerator for VR, and now he's the first accelerator who actually had the Iron Man suit guy fly around in our parking lot. So he's looking for sci-fi becoming reality, and so watch interesting things happen over at Boost. Don't miss a demo day if you're a venture capitalist. And then it's kind of fun because women are really starting to jump into the venture capital world, and into the entrepreneurial world. And my daughter has set up a venture fund. She's the Valley girl. She set up a venture fund called Halogen Ventures, and Halogen is only backing women. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, at first I thought, no, you don't want to limit yourself. And then I thought, well, wait a second. Women are such a small percentage of the entrepreneurs. The ones who start businesses must be extraordinary. And so that ended up being a good move, I think, and she's identified that. My other son, Billy, joined me, and we started Draper Associates to back all of these great companies that we've sent through the ecosystem. And so this has been a really fantastic 5 years. But I think this all started with Ti. So, in your honor, Ti, thank you very much. I've written a little poem about my history with Ti. Last time I did a little Bollywood dance, and it didn't really go well. I think it was something like this, right? Okay. But here we go. I call it the spirit of Ti, the power of I, because of I for imagine, innovate, and inflect, and for I meaning you guys. 25 years ago today, I got an offer to come out and play, to meet some friends of Conwell Recchi who wanted to hear about VC and techie. The Indus entrepreneurs, they were then named, from India and Pakistan and Sri Lankan fame. I expected a round table of maybe 15 or 20. If I saw one interesting company, it would be plenty. But when I arrived, I saw a big stage and about 750 people I would gauge. I got up and spoke with 3 other VCs and was mobbed at the end by 100 business brainies. Rhymes with VCs, I guess. Yes, I received 50 plans in a day and discovered that Indus was one here to stay. Conwall and his crew would build up a forum. It would cover the world, thousands or more of them. The people would start companies that would change how we think, how we talk to each other, how we drive, how we drink. They would change the media, the games, and the data. They'd change out one product and test a new beta. With Hotmail and Skype, they'd change communications. Then with the blockchain, they'd change entire nations. And just when one company changed the world with a wink, another would come up and compete with a blink. Through TiE, they would meet and discuss their big plans to change the world and then cut deals and shake hands. TiE grew and it grew. Now you should see them. They can fill up this Santa Clara Coliseum. So here's to the future: dynamic, unknown, autonomous cars, delivery drones, big data monitoring, tricorder readings, vacations to Mars, gene-splitting seedlings, instant 3D printing of anything you can think, using your Bitcoin to purchase the ink. Anything's possible with the spirit of TiE. Imagine, innovate, inflect the power of I. Inflect! 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 So 25 years later, I got an email from Ram Reddy. To speak now to thousands, it would be quite heady. Oh, I also got one from V. Shmishra. And as I look back, it's amazing to me about all the transforming of the world we would see. Think of the hard work, the drive force, the visions. Think of the infinite number of collisions. That would never happen to you or to I if not for Indus, the precursor to TiE. All right.